All right, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The book by Pierre Gervais, former equipment manager of the Montreal Canadiens, and even I did not see this coming. I didn't see it stirring up this much, where it's like, dude, multiple Habs players have had to come out and talk about the book and been asked by the media if it's true or what's going on, or was Pacioretty a terrible person, was Duchamp terrible, was, you know what I mean, Bergevin terrible, like the Suzuki, Gallagher, and others have had to come out and talk about this. I'm not criticizing Gervais, but I mean, Suzuki said, like, he did probably have to get some stuff off of his chest. But, hey, is it worth all the drama and everything it's stirring up right now? A big thank you to Priyanta Emrith on Twitter, who quoted the players and put them in tweets, and that's what we're going to be reading from today. I did also watch the video versions of the interviews for Suzuki and Gallagher, but let's just go through a couple of these to hear what the guys had to say. So Suzuki, what he said about Bergevin, Dominique Duchamp, and Max Pacioretty, this is quote from Suzuki. It's his book, his thoughts. Says he personally had a lot of respect for Bergevin, Duchamp, and Pacioretty, that being Suzuki. I also, in the video, he did mention that he loves Gervais. Gallagher said a bunch of stuff, apparently because there was a reporter who talked about what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, and Gervais writing the book and making it public breaks the code. Gallagher said, quote, "I don't know if there's a code. When I heard Gervais was writing the book, I said, great." He said, "I loved coming to the rink, sitting and talking to Gervais, and he had stories. He could talk, and I'm sure there's a ton of good stories in that book, but I know people are focusing on a couple of things right now, but I'm sure it'll be an interesting book." And just as an aside to that, I mean, the Max Pacioretty stuff yesterday, you got to admit that that was juicy. I mean, I heard some people in the comments saying that they've heard those stories on radio before, like weeks ago, months ago, which is really interesting. I didn't really hear that much stuff about it. This was the first I'd heard of it. But I thought it was super interesting, and of course, I'm sure he had a ton of good stuff to say too, but he must have known this would have stirred something up. And you're in Montreal and Habs land. They run with this stuff all the time, right? So other things he said, quote, "It's hard to comment because I got respect for everyone, and I hope it blows over and everyone can get back to looking good and feeling good about themselves, because that's ultimately what we try to do around here." Also, I love those two leaders, Gallagher and Suzuki, just coming out and trying to diffuse the situation and de-escalate, and I love that, and they're handling it like top class. I tweeted about this, like, Suzuki and Gallagher are so classy, and of course they wouldn't come out in the situation and handle it with anything other than class, right? So specifically when talking about Dominique Duchamp, here's what Gallagher said, quote, "Nobody doesn't respect Dom, or nobody wasn't listening to Dom. It was just a case of a new voice. We've been going on a good path since, but it doesn't mean that guys didn't respect Dom." Quote, "It's unfair to point the finger at one person. With Dom, people forget we went to a cup final and he was a massive part of that. He came in and he was the new voice and he turned things around." Quote, "Just like I spent a decade with Gervais, Pierre Gervais, and I loved every conversation I had with Gervais and would do anything for him, I have the same respect and admiration for Marc Bergevin." So again, there's so many about this. And Gallagher carries on. "Berge cared about us. He was loyal and did every single thing. Every decision he made was for us as players." Suzuki also said, quote, "Obviously, Gervais felt like he needed to get something off of his chest or release that, so I don't know what his intentions were, but we all love him." Again, like, just so much class from these two guys who are so clearly the two leaders of this team. And I love to see it personally. Like, to me, this is exactly what you need to see from your two leaders to come out and try to diffuse this situation. So good on them. And as far as what's going on with Pierre Gervais and all this stuff, like, I mean, I get it, especially, like, if there were people who mistreated him. I get one day wanting to say your piece so people know your side of the story as well, because again, if you're an NHL player making millions of dollars like a Max Pacioretty and you treat these type of people like garbage, usually the NHL player unfortunately can get away with it, right? So he probably wanted to get that off of his chest and talk about it. I will say though, he did say like a lot of gossip. Like I just talked about the Pacioretty stuff yesterday because that's all I really read. But I mean, the stuff about Duchamp and the stuff about Bergevin, I didn't really know that much about. So, I mean, I do think he might have had to cool it a little bit. But again, if he did have a lot on his chest, then he had a lot on his chest to say, right? So, I mean, if that's what happens, that's what happens here. Of course, I want to know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Me personally, I mean, it's interesting to know. And of course, all Habs fans are going to want to read about this and know what happened in the dressing room, what people are like, right? So I did love to hear, though, that Nick Suzuki is such a gem, because he seems like such a gem to the media and the fans. It's so good to know that he's also just a great dude in the locker room as well. So, hey, that's good to know at least. And I'm sure with Gallagher, it's the same type of thing as well. But of course, I want to know what you think about this. Comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.